Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Crosswinds Church More Than Sunday podcast. Today, I've got Aaron Horner joining us. He's one of our pastors at Crosswinds. You know Aaron because he leads out our Sunday night services. In addition to that, he's been working with our men's small groups for a long time. And right now, Aaron is partnering. At Crosswinds and First Presbyterian Church of Hayward have partnered to send Aaron out to work with the homeless in the Hayward area, and even maybe someday build a church just for homeless people. He's got such a passion for that. Well, we interviewed him on the first episode of our More Than Sunday podcast, and I thought it might be wise for us to check back in with him and specifically hear a little bit more about this wonderful village that he and I and 49 other Bay Area people visited this past February down in Austin, Texas, a place called Community First Village, that is a village, a master planned community designed for people stepping out of chronic homelessness. Aaron had a chance to spend a lot more time there than any of us, and I'm thinking over a series of episodes, it would be fun to check in with some of those who went and hear what their impressions were. Reason being, we have a vision for something like this to happen up here in the Bay Area, and we cannot get it out of our system. So enjoy this conversation with Aaron Horner. Well, hey everyone, I am here with Aaron Horner, who is one of our pastors at Crosswinds and is also working with First Pres in Hayward right now on their 6 tiny houses. This is the second time you've been on our podcast, Aaron. Welcome back.
It's an honor, man. I am glad to be here. How's everybody doing?
Hopefully we're all doing well. How's the shelter in place treating you? You are like the least sheltered in place person I've met.
I'm calling it the unsheltered in place. That's me.
Because you work you should call it shelter in shelter, because you're actually working at the shelter. I like it. Think
That's
about
true.
it.
Shelter and
Think
shelter.
about it. So we had Aaron on. Aaron was our first podcast, I believe. You were number one, man.
I was honored to be there at the beginning, man.
And we've not talked to you since. And you kind of walked us through a little bit of what you were doing in Hayward, how the 6 tiny homes there are going. We talked about the shelter that's run out of there that you do. We talked about the church plant in South Hayward Parish that you're working on. Specifically today, I asked you to come on because I want to kick off at least a couple of episodes. I don't know if this will be an entire 5-episode series or whatever, but I'd love for us to do a couple episodes here and there where we talk about Community First Village in Austin, Texas. We've had a number of people. I think we had about 51 from the Bay Area all go down to Texas back in February. My hunch is that's where we all first contracted coronavirus on our flights. I think we're going to take antibody tests and find out we've had it all along. But we had 51 people go down there and spend a couple days. And I'm going to be talking to a few of them, but I thought we'd start with you because, man, Aaron, you went down a week before we did and spent 3 or 4 days in this village really learning what they do, knowing that you were going to be doing this in Hayward and there's vision to do more of it in the Bay Area. So can you just tell us what Community First Village is? I mean, as I talk about this, people have no idea unless they heard me mention it on a Sunday. If they were there that day, if they caught the video we showed. Would you explain what it is?
Yeah. So Community First Village is part of a nonprofit called Mobile Loaves and Fishes. And they started over 20 years ago with just providing food on the streets to people in need of Austin, Texas. And what they did about 5-6 years ago was they started to build a tiny home village outside the city lines to basically give people that were previously unhoused an opportunity to have long-term housing. So their model is really about community. One of the things that they believe, and I actually, I firmly believe this from my own experience, is that the real cause of homelessness is from a catastrophic loss of family. So it's great to
wait. Let's not gloss over that. Let's not go through that too fast. That's such an important thing you just said. I don't want people to miss it. And to get back to it, Alan Graham is the guy who started this community. Aaron got to spend some time with him down there. And for years, he's like a retired home builder. He was a real estate developer for many years. And the whole time he was doing real estate development, he just had a heart for unhoused people. And what he noticed was that food was a big issue, so they started having mobile food trucks, right? That would go around to people in Austin, encampments. They'd give out food. A key feature of the way they did food trucks was rather than standing on the inside and serving people on the outside, They stood right next to him in front of the truck, and it just kind of invited them to the pantry, so to speak, right?
Yep,
Come help
exactly.
yourself. What do you want today? Um, and then Alan, I believe, started to kind of put people in RVs. He said, we got to get these people housing. So he
Yeah,
started
one by
finding,
one.
yeah,
Yep, one
old
by one.
used RVs, and he put one in this RV camp over here, and he put somebody in an RV over here. And
Yep.
uh, it was really good, but he noticed the problem was that housing is not really what people were missing. What you just said, that the reason people were homeless was often because they had a profound, catastrophic loss of family. Let's say it again together. We don't have to say it together, but I want to say profound, catastrophic loss of family. Which, let me ask you that right there in your experience. Is that true?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, once I heard that, and we spent, so when I was down there in Austin, I had the privilege of spending, like you said, like 3 days in Symposium and being down there for a total of 5 days, getting to know individuals, and I just saw it firsthand. That the people that I saw there were folks that we would normally see out here on the streets or in the creeks, but they were living holistic lives, and the reason for that is that they got family back. So they had people they could rely on. They were in communal settings. They ate together. They have communal, areas where they get together. They have meetings. They have gatherings. They support each other, and it starts to build back all of those pieces of what they're missing. And in my work, I noticed that each one of the individuals, the only difference really between me and some of these folks that I serve is the fact that my parents took me in 3 times as an adult. There was 3 separate times. I got married young, had kids young. Um, 3 separate times I've had to move back in with my parents. If that didn't happen, I potentially could have been on the street with my wife and my kids. So really, I mean, the fact that I had that is a privilege that I possess that not everyone has. So a lot of these folks I'm working with, I actually it was crazy. This guy I was taken to a job site last Friday. This guy
Yeah.
got a little side job. And he was telling me, he said, these guys out here are really intelligent. He was talking about other people at the shelter.
Yeah.
And he said, the only difference between us and those normal folks is we burnt bridges. That one,
Mm,
that one really hit me, and it made me go right back to this thought that it's a catastrophic loss of family through burnt bridges,
yeah.
or through death, or from, just geographic movement.
Yeah.
But really, not having all the elements of what are considered a family is why people are in their current situation.
Yeah, I think it's so important. So at first, when I heard it, I thought, I don't know. I mean, for about
Yeah.
30 seconds, I thought that. I thought, no, no, no. Mental illness is the cause of homelessness. Or I thought, no, no, no. Drug addiction is the cause of homelessness. Or maybe even the system is the cause of homelessness. Any number of things. The high cost of housing in the Bay Area is the cause of homelessness. And then what
Yep.
hit me was, oh, wait a second. Sorry, there's a truck driving by. I should have closed my window. We are the most unprofessional podcast experience that has ever existed. So it's not even a truck, it's a street cleaner. It's the loudest possible next to a garbage truck, the loudest possible. Hang on, let me go shut the window. Sorry, crosswinds. Um, I got one window. The other one's just gonna have to stay open.
All good.
No, I thought all those things, but then it hit me. Wait a second. I know people who have some kind of mental illness and they're not on the streets. And I know people with
Right.
addiction that are not on the streets. And I know people who can't afford to live here and they're not on the streets. And it hit me. Oh, the
Yep.
difference is they have somebody. They
That's
have
right.
somebody who can make sure they're taking their medication. They've
Yep.
got somebody who was able to help them get into rehab or a detox center or stick with them as they work the 12 steps. Um,
Yep.
they've got somebody who is helping them get into housing of some sort, and that's when I thought, oh, they're right. It is the profound, catastrophic loss of family that leads to this. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. So
Yep. 100%.
ultimately, what Alan Graham came to realize was, oh, the thing that's going to solve, and solve is such a, I hate using the word because it implies there's a solution to something that's way more complicated than our solutions sometimes. But the thing that's going to solve it is not housing. Housing doesn't solve homelessness. Community does. Community will. And because of it, they built this village. They called it Community First Village, meaning it's not about the houses we're going to build. It's about the community. That's the most important thing we're going to do here. And the great thing is you got to go down there and live.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, houses are required. I will tell you that, but
Yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
definitely not the first thing. But yeah, I got to live there, and like you're saying, there was so many cool things going on there. One of the things I got to do was go hang out with folks that live there and work there. A lot of the jobs that they have on the landscaping, the cleaning, the culinary, the coffee shop, the market on site, all of those are staffed by people that live there, who are
Yeah,
formerly homeless. And it's what they call neighbors. So I was
yeah.
excited to see that, be able to hang out with people. I came back when I went the second week with you guys, came back with you, was able to go hang out, and do Pablo's Tacos, which is a Wednesday morning treat. Everybody gets together, they have some tacos in one of the kitchens, and then sit down and do a little Bible study together. Get to dig into the Word. It's basically a small group
Yeah.
of people getting together, reading the Word, and supporting each other as they dive into it. One of
So
the cool
so
things
so
that I got there was a guy, actually, one of the unhoused neighbors, checking me on my theology, and he was actually correct. It was beautiful, man. Put me in
yeah,
my
yeah.
place, man. I loved it.
Yeah. So Aaron got to go 2 straight weeks in a row, and the first week he went really alone and just learned from them how to do this for 3 or 4 days. The second week is
Yep.
when that big group of 51 of us went. We all stayed at a hotel, probably about 20, 25 minutes away. Um, we woke up that morning to all go to our continental breakfast. Everybody's down there hanging out. Where's Aaron? Anybody know where Aaron Horner is? Anybody seen Aaron Horner? Turns out Aaron got a. Did you take an Uber?
Yep.
Aaron
We
got
figured
an
out.
Uber with another guy, and the
Well,
two
actually,
of
we
them.
bootlegged one of the trucks that you guys had. We took one.
Okay,
They let
okay.
us.
One of the
Yeah.
vans, one of the big passenger
Yeah.
vans. They
hmm
they got a passenger van. They drove out to the site early morning, dude. Was it like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., something like that?
Yeah.
And some of the formerly homeless people that Aaron had gotten to know the week before heard he was coming back to town and said, "Hey, why don't you come and have breakfast with us? We'll make you breakfast." They made you breakfast as
Correct.
you sat and hung out with them and did all of this.
Yep. And it was a combination of people who had been formerly chronically homeless, and people that they call missionals, which are folks who have felt called to live there in the community to help with recreating that community that people need so much. So yeah, it's a combination of people from the that have not experienced homelessness and people that had, and everybody sat down. We're all on the same playing field, and really, I mean, that's a value that I love. There is that there's not one person uh, giving to those in need, but we're all just experiencing this moment together from different resource levels.
Yeah, man. You mentioned missionals. Let's talk. Well, let's come back to that. When we say village, we don't just mean a bunch of tiny homes and some outdoor space. Like,
Correct.
can you walk us through what the amenities? This is a master planned community. I think that's
Right.
probably the most important thing to say. How many people are living in it?
Just over 200,
Okay.
just over 200 individuals, and out of that, about 30 of them are the missionals, like we talked about.
Yeah. So coming back to the missionals, what when we say village, what's in the village? What do they have?
So as you arrive on your left-hand side, there's 10 tiny homes that are all different sizes and shapes that are part of their Airbnb business. So if you guys wanted to go out there, you could go check it out. You could Airbnb, stay there for a couple nights, and support their business. And behind that is an outdoor movie theater that they've put together with a local brewery to be able to draw business out there and to be able to support what they're doing, and also just to create community between the village and the greater community surrounding them.
Yeah.
Past that, there's a store market that has some basic, needs like milk and cookies and that kind of stuff. But there's also the wares that are made in the next building, which is the art building. So
Yeah.
some folks make necklaces, some make clothing. They have a huge screen printing business there. Some people actually work in a building that's down the road a little bit, the blacksmithing shop. So they have a huge blacksmithing shop, which is one of two blacksmith shops in the country that have a large national competition each year. So it's actually well known. It's on the map across the country.
Yeah, if I
And
can interrupt for a second.
yeah,
One of the things you're mentioning in all of this are job opportunities that are created in this village. So if we're
that's right.
if we're a real village that's about community, we're not just about housing. We got to have jobs. Everybody's paying rent.
Exactly.
Everybody's a part of this. So on the other side of that art studio you were talking about, and that's some like you said, that's some people's kind of micro enterprise. They are making art and selling it, and some really beautiful art. I'll say that. Uh, there's an auto shop. There's an
Yep,
auto shop right
exactly.
there, and some people have learned some skills to do oil changes, tire change, rotation, whatever.
Detailing. Hmm.
Detailing, yeah. That's another one of the jobs. What else is in the community?
Yeah, and that was sponsored by a local automotive business.
Yeah,
They
like a
they
Toyota.
partnered, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and they helped them to get certified in that so that they have their own business ongoing.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, Beyond that, there's a large building in the center of the property it has classroom space, offices, a large gathering room, and that's where property management takes place. So where people, if they're dealing with their rent, paying their rent, they need additional support. There's 10 therapists on staff there on site
Yeah.
that are in that building. And then they also have, just past that, there's a small gathering area that has a food truck.
Right.
And that's where you get your coffee delivered from. I was
Yeah.
able to figure out how they have mobile ordering. So you can mobile order from this food truck and they will deliver to you anywhere on the property. So
Right.
we got an espresso bar in there. They also serve lunch. And there's like an indoor outdoor communal space with one of those big, huge outdoor pizza ovens. I love that spot.
Yeah.
Um,
They have
and-
an organic garden. They have a
yep,
giant garden. So some
yep,
people, their job is working in the garden. They have cattle. I mean, I think they have goats. At the very least, they have goats and chickens. Um,
exactly.
and I
Yep,
noticed that they're making like goat soap. I'm not quite
yeah,
sure what that is. I don't
yeah.
know if they take goat hair, put it in a
I think they take
soap.
the goat milk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, is
And
that
they
what it is?
also eat the eggs too.
Yeah, yeah. The goat eggs.
Mm, yeah, the goat egg.
I didn't know. Yeah. Uh, it is incredible the amount of opportunity. So what they've got volunteers from all over Austin who are coming out and serving on this place. And so some people's jobs are leading teams of volunteers when they come out. Rather
Yep,
than just saying volunteers go work in the garden, they'll put 20 volunteers with one of the neighbors, residents who are leading that crew. They're like a foreman for the crew that day.
correct. Exactly.
Um, Aaron, we're getting close to our time limit on this thing. I want to talk about missionals, and maybe we can have you back and we'll do more on a lot of the other because we literally could spend 2 hours talking about this.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. Yeah, there's so much going on with that.
when we say missional neighbor, what are we saying? What are we talking about? We keep throwing that term out.
Yeah, so basically, what a missional is someone who feels called to live in this community. They pay rent just like all of the formerly unhoused neighbors. They are a neighbor. There's no hierarchy there. It's we're all working together, and their goal is to be able to provide pieces of that community that did not exist without that. So the missionals in Austin that I met, there's a woman who is in charge of the entire art studio. She's an amazing painter, professional painter. And she's teaching everyone how to do that. You've got a CEO of a multi-million-dollar organization, lives there, pays rent in a tiny home just like everybody else.
Wow.
There's a guy that I hung out with, Pablo. What's up, Pablo? Shout out to Pablo. He works managing restaurants in town, and then is a missional, helps with security overnights and just helping out, being there for people that need it. There's different folks from. I mean, I met so many different people from different churches, different backgrounds that all come together with a different sort of skill set that they bring to the community.
Yeah, I mean, imagine for a second a village made up of 200, 250, soon to be 500, because they're expanding into phase two right now, former homeless people.
Yep.
And imagine 1 out of 5 of those people there not maybe having experienced chronic homelessness, but wanting to be kind of light in the darkness, so to speak, and just be there and be a part of the community to build relationships and just kind of help see it be a place of healthiness. Pretty amazing, pretty cool, dude.
Yeah.
Well, lots more to talk about with this thing, and a lot of other features to kind of share. And maybe what we ought to do as we talk about this is pick a unique piece of it we want to talk about, rather than
Yeah. Let's do it.
all right.